In the grand tapestry of ancient history, some threads shine brighter than others. We remember the pharaohs of Egypt, the emperors of Rome, and the kings of Persia. But what about the names that have faded into obscurity? The conquerors whose empires crumbled to dust and were forgotten by time. Today, we pull one of those threads from the shadows. We're going to tell the story of a man with a name you've probably never heard, but whose actions shaped the ancient world. Suppiluliuma I, the great warrior king of the Hittites. Over 3,000 years ago, the Near East was a chessboard of powerful empires. To the south, Egypt, ancient and powerful. To the east, the Kassite kingdom of Babylonia and the rising power of Assyria. And in the heart of Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, lay the kingdom of the Hittites. For decades, they had been a shadow of their former glory, weakened by internal strife and hemmed in by enemies on all sides. Their future looked bleak. But in this era of decline, a new prince was born, a man destined to forge an empire from the brink of collapse. His name was Suppiluliuma. His early life is shrouded in mystery. We know he was the son of a king, but not the chosen heir. Power in the Hittite court was a dangerous game, often won through conspiracy and bloodshed. Suppiluliuma learned this lesson early. After his father's death, his older brother took the throne, but his reign was short-lived. A conspiracy, very likely orchestrated by Suppiluliuma himself, saw the king assassinated, with his rival gone. Suppiluliuma seized the throne around 1344 BC. He wasn't a legitimate heir, he was a usurper. And now, he had to prove he was worthy of the crown he had stolen. His kingdom was in chaos. To the north, the fierce Kaska tribes raided with impunity. To the southeast, the powerful Mitanni Empire, allied with Egypt, controlled the vital trade routes of Syria. The Hittite kingdom was a cornered animal, and Suppiluliuma knew he had to strike first. He began by reforming the Hittite army, a force already renowned for its formidable iron weapons and revolutionary three-man chariots. Under his command, it became a disciplined, professional fighting machine, loyal to him and him alone. First, he turned his attention north. For years, the Kaska tribes had been a thorn in the side of the Hittites. They were not a unified kingdom, but a loose confederation of warrior tribes, making them impossible to conquer in a single decisive battle. Previous kings had tried and failed, but Suppiluliuma was different. He didn't just fight battles, he waged relentless campaigns, building a network of fortresses and garrisons, pushing the Kaska deeper and deeper into their mountain strongholds. He pacified the northern frontier, securing his homeland and freeing his army for the real prize, the south. The Mitanni Empire was his great rival. Their king Tushratta saw the Hittites as a minor nuisance. He was about to get a rude awakening. Suppiluliuma didn't launch a direct frontal assault. He was a master strategist. His first move was a lightning-fast campaign across the Euphrates River, a move that stunned his enemies. He bypassed the main Mitanni defenses and struck at their Syrian vassal states, turning them into his own allies one by one. Cities that had long paid tribute to Mitanni now bowed to the Hittite king. Tushratta, the Mitanni king, was furious. He marched his army to face the Hittites, expecting an easy victory. He was wrong. Suppiluliuma outmaneuvered him, crushing the Mitanni forces, and then, in a move of pure audacity, he marched on the Mitanni capital, Wasukani. The great city was sacked and plundered. In a single, brilliant campaign, Suppiluliuma had shattered the power of his greatest rival. The balance of power in the Near East had shifted dramatically. With Mitanni broken, Suppiluliuma now controlled a vast territory stretching from central Anatolia deep into Syria. He was the most powerful king of his time. But power brings new problems. His sudden rise had alarmed the other great power in the region, Egypt. For centuries, Egypt and Mitanni had been allies, their relationship cemented by royal marriages. Now, with a new, aggressive Hittite empire on their doorstep, the Egyptians were nervous. A confrontation seemed inevitable. And then, something unprecedented happened. A message arrived at the Hittite court from the most unlikely of sources, the Queen of Egypt herself. We know her from the historical records as Dakamansu, though many historians believe this was actually Ankhesenumun, the widow of the famous boy King Tutankhamun. Her message was shocking. She wrote, "My husband has died and I have no son. They say you have many sons. If you would give me one of your sons, he would become my husband." I will not take a servant of mine and make him my husband. This was an incredible offer. A Hittite prince on the throne of Egypt. It was unthinkable. Such a union would create a super empire dominating the entire ancient world. Suppiluliuma was deeply suspicious. Was it a trap? He sent an envoy to Egypt to verify the queen's story. The envoy returned, confirming the pharaoh was dead and the offer was genuine. The Egyptian court was in turmoil, and the queen was desperate to prevent a high-ranking official, possibly I, from seizing the throne. Suppiluliuma made his decision. He chose one of his sons, Zanunza, and sent him to Egypt to become pharaoh. The world held its breath. A new era was about to dawn. But it was not to be. Prince Zanunza never reached his destination. Somewhere on the road to Egypt, his caravan was ambushed, and he was murdered. The plot was likely hatched by the anti-Hittite faction at the Egyptian court, the very people the queen feared. When the news reached Suppiluliuma, his grief turned to fury. He believed, rightly or wrongly, that the Egyptians had betrayed him. "You have killed my son," he roared in letters to the new pharaoh. The dream of a peaceful union was shattered, replaced by the certainty of war. Suppiluliuma unleashed his armies on Egypt's territories in Syria. The Hittite war machine, honed by years of conflict, rolled over the Egyptian garrisons. City after city fell. The Hittites took thousands of prisoners, hauling them back to the Hittite heartland. It was the peak of Suppiluliuma's power. He was the undisputed master of the Near East, an emperor forged in fire and intrigue. But his greatest victory carried the seeds of his own destruction. The Egyptian prisoners of war brought with them something more deadly than any army, a devastating plague. The disease swept through the Hittite lands, an invisible enemy that no army could fight. It ravaged the population, from the lowest farmer to the highest noble, and it did not spare the royal family. The plague raged for years, crippling the empire Suppiluliuma had built. His sons, his heirs, began to die. And then the disease claimed the great conqueror himself. Around 1322 BC, Suppiluliuma I, the terror of his enemies, the king who had redrawn the map of the ancient world, died not in battle, but in his bed, a victim of the very spoils of his victory. His death marked the end of an era. The Hittite Empire would endure for another century, even fighting the famous Battle of Kadesh against Ramesses II. But it would never again reach the heights it had under its great warrior king. The plague he inadvertently unleashed would weaken his kingdom for a generation, a grim legacy for a man who had lived by the sword. And so, the story of Suppiluliuma faded. The Hittite Empire eventually collapsed. Its cities were abandoned, and its language was forgotten. For 3,000 years, his name was lost to history, buried beneath the soil of Turkey. It was only in the early 20th century, when archaeologists deciphered the Hittite cuneiform tablets, that his incredible story was rediscovered. The tale of the usurper who became an emperor, the strategist who outsmarted his rivals, the father who almost placed his son on the throne of Egypt, and the conqueror brought down by an invisible foe. A story that proves that even the most powerful kings are subject to the whims of fate, and that history has a long, long memory. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. If you enjoy exploring the forgotten corners of history, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories of the ancient world. See you next time.